Welcome to the DarkWhisper AI, and today's story is going to be a little different than normal. Let's just jump right into it. Late one night, in the middle of a rainstorm, Daniel Turner, a night shift radio technician, was alone in the control room of station 103.5 FM. The air smelled of dust and burnt circuits. Lightning flashed outside the window, illuminating the grime-covered glass for a split second before plunging the room back into darkness. The only illumination came from the signal monitor glowing faintly on the cluttered desk, the surface of which was covered with coffee cups and loose papers. He had been scanning the frequencies for unusual broadcasts when he found it. It wasn't on the official broadcast list for the area. It was just a narrow, hidden channel. No station name, no ID code. Only one thing appeared on the screen: black signal, do not tune. Daniel frowned, considering whether or not he should investigate further. His curiosity was piqued, but the instruction to ignore the signal was a clear indication that whatever it was, it probably wasn't anything good. But the voice in his head that always seemed to push him to the edge of his comfort zone to seek out the unknown won out over his better judgment. So he tuned in the frequency a bit more. At first, all he could hear was static, a faint crackling noise. But as he continued to try and get a clearer signal, he began to make out a faint voice. It was slow, deliberate, emotionless. It whispered, 543. Whatever this was, it was definitely no ordinary broadcast. It sounded like some sort of old emergency alert channel, though he couldn't recall any emergency alerts being issued that night. The local sheriff's office hadn't reported anything unusual, and weather-related emergencies were automatically broadcasted through the main channels, and he would have picked up those frequencies while scanning. Plus, that type of alert would have ended with a loud siren instead of just cutting out with a countdown. Daniel stared at the monitor, trying to see if the numbers changed, but his eyes couldn't pick them out clearly in the dimly lit room. Still, he could hear the voice plainly. 2, 1. It fell silent. Just as he was about to change the channel, he heard a noise. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. A loud hum resonated through the floor and vibrated up his legs and through his body until it echoed in his chest. Then, just as abruptly as it began, it stopped. But before Daniel could do anything, a new sound filled the room. This time it was clear where it originated from. It was coming from the speakers on his desk. The static was gone, replaced by the voice once again. But now he could hear it much more clearly. 5-4. Daniel immediately reached for the volume knob and pressed it down, muting the speakers, except the voice kept going. But it wasn't coming from the speakers anymore. It was coming from inside the room. 3, 2. He whipped around, searching under the desk, between the equipment, in the closet, but he couldn't find anything. As he turned back to the monitor, he saw that the signal bars had disappeared and been replaced by a live video feed. He watched in disbelief as a grainy image of himself appeared on the screen. It was him, sitting at his desk, watching the monitor. But that wasn't possible. The feed was live. He could see his hands on the controls, his eyes glued to the screen. He could even see the slight twitch in his left eyelid that he'd always had, but nobody ever noticed. It was unnerving to watch because he knew he was the one in the video, but he also knew he shouldn't be seeing himself on the monitor. There was no way for anyone to be able to see the control room from any camera angle. All the cameras in the building faced the studio, not the control room. Plus, they never showed the live feeds after midnight. He looked away from the monitor and around the room to see if he could find where the camera might be set up, but he found nothing. His gaze returned to the monitor just in time to see a dark figure step into view. It materialized from the shadows behind him, walking slowly toward the camera. As he watched, horrified, the figure reached his shoulder and tapped him lightly. Daniel spun around, knocking his chair back, and looked around frantically, but he saw nothing. There was no one in the room. Yet the image on the monitor hadn't changed. It still showed him sitting in the chair, except now the dark figure had taken shape. It was hunched over his shoulder, peering at the monitor with him. Its face was just a blur, but its mouth moved. 3, 2, 1. It began the countdown again. Daniel tried to speak, to scream, but his voice wouldn't come out. He was frozen with fear as the figure reached out and touched the monitor, nudging it slightly. Daniel could feel the vibration through his bones as the energy surged through the room. Then the lights went out. Only the monitor's light remained, illuminating the room with a sickly green glow. In the video, Daniel could see the door behind his chair opening. He didn't have a door like that in the control room. The closest door was the one he'd entered through. That was on the other side of the desk. Yet on the video, the door continued to open wider and wider until it was almost touching his shoulder. Then the voice spoke again, saying, "You've listened long enough. Now we switch." Daniel felt another surge of energy course through the room, and the monitor went dead. He fumbled for the power switch, slamming it up and down, hoping to shut off the video feed, but it didn't shut off. It was as if the monitor had become disconnected from the power grid itself, existing in some sort of limbo. Then the video feed flickered back to life. But it wasn't Daniel on the screen anymore. It was you, sitting wherever you were, watching, listening. You sat quietly, looking straight ahead. On the screen, your lips moved as you whispered, 3, 2, 1. The voice from the monitor spoke directly to you, saying your turn. And the feed cut out. The last thing you saw was yourself in the monitor, stepping out of frame. Then everything went black. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that story. If you did, please subscribe, DarkWhisper AI. Leave a comment. The next episode will be up soon, don't miss. Until next time, don't forget, whispers come from room 6.